G'day guys, it's Mark here from North Oz, and in today's video feels a little bit more like an infomercial than a North Oz video, to be honest. And we've got a whole bunch of equipment and a whole bunch of accessories out here of stuff that I do not use for camping and stuff that I regret buying. So we're going to talk about some of my most least used things that I have in my camping setup, and given the fact that they are dusty and covered in cobwebs, they are things that I regret buying because I don't really use them at all. So let's get straight into today's video.
Really quickly before we start, guys, I just wanted to remind you that this is our second fundraising video that we are doing, and you can see I have a little bit of a different haircut going on here. You'll see that in future videos, and it is for Mullets for Mental Health, run by the Black Dog Institute. So we've started a North Oz fundraising page on there. So if you would like to donate, there are links in the description, and if you would like to know a little bit more about mental health and mental health awareness, there's also links in the description as well. And if you don't have any money to donate, guys, that's fine. All the money that we are raising and all the money that we get through our videos this month for YouTube, I'm going to be donating to our fundraiser. So if you just let the ads run for as long as possible and let the video run for as long as possible, we'll get a little bit more money to put into our fundraiser. So I'll let you get back to today's video. Thank you for watching.
All right, so the first thing that we have to talk about is a shovel. Now, every good four-wheel driver knows that you need a shovel. This was not the right shovel to get. The shovel's too small. It seemed like a good idea because I was like, oh yeah, I'm gonna get a shovel and I'll be able to use it to, you know, dig the sand out from, you know, behind the tires and in front of the tires and get my Max Trax under there. But what ended up happening was I took it with me on the trip, and you can see that trip up there. I'll leave a link for it. But I ended up just using the Max Trax anyway as a shovel. So in terms of this type of shovel being useful, no, I'm probably going to end up getting a long handle shovel and putting it up on my roof rack for those trips, especially when it starts to get a little bit muddy and a little bit rainy. So small shovel, my first regret. Now my second regret is we have a jerry can. Now when I first got this jerry can, it started leaking all over the place because I didn't tighten the bung hole on it very well, so it wasn't off to a good start. And I thought, geez, how handy would it be to have 20 odd liters of water just handy? And I couldn't end up finding a tap to go into that because they had run out of stock. So I ended up tipping all my water like this for the whole trip, and it got a little bit tedious. So what I have ended up doing now, and I'll do this in another video explaining how I carry water and stuff, is I just have a whole pile of different types of water containers. So I will show that at some point, because carrying water for me is a bit of a stress thing, especially on the big trips where, you know, you don't want to run out of water, and, you know, packing something like a jerry can is a very awkward thing to try to pack, especially in a wagon where I don't have anywhere to put it on the outside of the vehicle, and I'm always worried about it leaking all over my stuff. So yeah, jerry can for water, yeah, I don't really use it very often, and it's covered in dust. So yeah, I'll probably just leave it for maybe a little beach trip or something one day, a little day trip. But apart from that, not very useful. The next thing on the table is this cable. So it is a solar cable, and I have a solar panel on the top of my Rhino Rack platform. Took me a little bit of stuffing around to try to, you know, get it up there, because there's really no like solar panel adapters for a Rhino Rack platform. So I had to make my own a little bit. So there's a lot of stuffing around, and I haven't used it. I have a DC to DC charger in my Prado, and it charges up my battery very quickly. I've got a lithium battery in there, and I've never run out of battery in it. And I got this solar, I guess, cable to run from an input in the back of the wagon to the solar panel on top of the roof, but I just haven't used it. So again, solar panels, you can add solar panel to it. I can't rip it off the roof, but add solar panels, and my solar cables that I had done up especially for that, yeah, waste of time, waste of money. Let's move on. So for the next item, I have a Coleman Triton. Now I didn't want to go out and just buy a normal, small little butane stove. I thought, nah, I could do better than that, because, you know, I want a 2-burner and I'm going to cook up, you know, some massive feeds, and it's going to be awesome. And you know, that has never happened. So I've only ever used 1 burner on this thing anyway. And this has actually got quite a bit of use, because I've ended up using it at home. So as like my barbecue. So I leave this at home when I go camping, and I just have a little butane stove, little El Cheapo one that's like $30, and it does the job for me, and I don't have any issues with it at all. And it seemed like a good idea to get this, but it ended up being more of a hassle than it was worth, because Well, you needed to have the gas can, you know, the big, you know, the big gas cylinder, and you also need to have an adapter as well to go onto the side of it. And you know, there was only certain places that had the adapter, and it became a whole big thing. And I got the whole setup looking good, and I took it with me camping once, and that was about it once, because it ended up just being too much of a hassle. So that was a lot of money to buy this, the adapter, and a gas cylinder, because I didn't want to get a really big one, so I got a smaller one, and that ended up costing quite a bit of money. So Coleman Triton, great burner, really enjoying using it at home, just not for camping. Every serious four-wheel driver requires a recovery kit. Now, I have not used it. It's just the way it's gone. I haven't needed to recover myself out of anything that my Max Trax couldn't sort out for me. It's a good little kit. It's from XTM, and you know, it's got the whole shackles and everything going on, but you know, I just haven't used it. I haven't needed it. Every time I've kind of gotten bogged and stuck, I've used my Max Trax. So they've been worth their weight in gold, and I guess it's good to still have, and I still pack it as extra insurance. But you know, just one of those things. I bought it, I don't use it. Should I keep taking it with me on trips? Probably. Will I? No, I keep leaving it at home. So one of those things that, you know, yeah, recovery kit, need to have it, I guess, especially when you're going remote, but one of those things that it's like, I probably could have spent that money on something else. All right, on to our second last item now, and it is by a company called Companion. So I had it in my head that, you know, I would be able to have showers wherever I went, you know, I'll be all nice and clean all the time. And what ended up happening was, the more I started camping and the more I started traveling a little bit further away from home, is that I always ended up finding a shower somewhere anyway, whether it was at an actual like national park, or if it was, you know, and which would be obviously basic and cold, but it does the job, or if it's at like a, you know, swimming hole. And, you know, a lot of places that I go to away from Cairns, especially up at the tablelands and stuff, it's a lot cooler there. So, you know, you don't sweat as much in that too. And if you have, you know, your swim towards the end of the day, you're actually quite clean. So, you know, so for me, I mean, I bought this shower. It's just hooks up to my 12-volt system. You put one end into a bucket, and then you've got a shower. So I've got a shower tent on the car as well, on the truck, which is good as a changing room and obviously as a shower tent, but I don't use it for a shower tent because I don't really use a shower. I often find some other way to clean myself. So yeah, anyway, the shower, 12-volt shower, big waste of money, haven't used it. I might in the future though, so we'll see. Now you're probably thinking, Mark, that second item that you had on the table was the last thing you had on the table. So what could be the final thing that I regret about buying certain things for camping? Well, it is this table itself. It's a Coleman table. It's a very nice table, don't get me wrong, but it's just too big and it's too heavy. It's made out of really strong materials, which is great, but it weighs a lot, and it's got a lot of compartments. You know, it's got a thing that pops up here and a, you know, for drinks and whatever else that you want to put on there, and there's a grate there for cooking, and then there's a little section over here for a bin bag, and but it folds up into a shape that's like this, and it's not the smallest size, but it's also quite heavy. And the more I started fitting out the vehicle with the drawer system that I built as well, and you know, the fridge and the pantry and stuff, I just didn't have any room for it. It was just too long. And so I needed something a little bit shorter and that I could just kind of tuck into, you know, a few corners and that. And that's when I landed on this, which is a lot smaller. In terms of size, it's about 20 centimeters smaller, and it's a lot lighter as well. You can see I can pick it up and move it around quite easily. It's made out of aluminium and a few other light materials. I was a little bit worried about how the materials would hold up on this. It's a Spinifex table, I think from Anaconda, just because it's kind of like a very light kind of plasticky MDF. But it's held up very well under pretty, you know, quite extreme cooking conditions. So yeah, so that's been working out quite well for me, and I can just kind of just chuck that into whatever section I want to in the car, and yeah, works out quite well. So yeah, the Coleman, great table, don't get me wrong. Like if you need that extra preparation space for, you know, cooking for a large family or whatever, but cooking for 1 or 2 people, I'm more than happy to just use that Spinifex table. Very small, compact, does the job. Alrighty guys, that concludes some of the top regrets that I have from being a novice camper. You know, a lot of the stuff I bought when I was just starting to get into camping and traveling. So, you know, of course I learned from my mistakes, as we all do, but I hope that you guys can learn from my mistakes as well. If you are new to camping or you're just like, that's maybe a better suggestion going forward. So I think my top 5 favorite things for camping will be maybe a bit more helpful, so you'll be able to get an idea of you know, how I kind of do my camping and how I can do it kind of relaxed and stress-free, and you know, without having to go out and buy a whole bunch of expensive stuff. So if you liked today's video, make sure you click the little like button on there, subscribe, and I will see you guys very shortly in the next video. Thank you for watching.